Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Meesha.
Welcome back to the North Atlanta Real Estate Podcast with your amazing host, Meesha Rawal.
And Jeff Aughey.
And today we're talking about something that comes up with almost every seller we meet. What should you do before your home even hits the market?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is sort of like, what do we do in the pre-listing preparation? And, we'll just go through some of the top questions that the sellers have as they're getting started. Should I repair my home, update it? You want to jump into this?
Yeah, and so one of the first questions we typically get is, when is the best time of the year to list your house? When is the best time when a house will sell the fastest? And the answer isn't easy. It's a little complicated, and it's not a one size fits all.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in our North Atlanta market, we do have a lot of transferees still and people coming in and out of the area. So there's always somebody buying a house. It isn't only affected seasonally. However, I do think it's fair to say that we have noticed over the years that spring is the most active time, no question about it. We have a very family-oriented area. A lot of people like to move with their kids during summer so that the kids aren't, moving during the school year. So that's certainly true. And I think we've also found historically our higher prices are from the sales that are actually occurring in May and June, the contracts. And so while that's the case most of the time, it's not a rule all the time.
Yeah, we've always touched upon the seasonality of real estate, and it's very true for our market. But I will say a perfect house which is ready to get listed will definitely outbeat or outsell a house which was listed at the perfect time but was not ready. So it's more important for you to get your house prepped up to hit the market than to hit the market at the perfect time but your house is not ready.
Yes, and a perfect time isn't one size fits all, because maybe someone has a real need where they have to move right away, and you can always, like you say, get a good home sold. If it's priced right, looks good, it'll sell. No
Absolutely.
question. Yeah.
Yes. And another question that comes up talks about fixes or updates, and sellers are always asking, should I replace the carpet? Should I paint the house? What are the fixes that we should do? And it's, again, not, it's like lawyer talk. It depends.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I like to do first because I do these visits like you do, I'm sure, right? You go over to someone's house and they're always like, okay, what should I do in this room? I said, hey, let me take a look around your whole house and get kind of a game plan in mind, because if every single room in the house has never been renovated and the paint's messy and it's just a mess everywhere, there's no way you're going to be able to fix the whole house. It wouldn't even make sense. So in cases like that, it may just be tidying up, streamlining, and cleaning is the good thing, and not putting a lot of money into repair.
It's all about the first impressions. Make sure that the surfaces are clean, it's decluttered, fresh paint. If you could afford to get new carpets or new floors, especially if you've had pets in the house and it's completely damaged, go ahead. If you can't replace the floors, at least refinish and wax them. So I feel like all reflective surfaces are super, super important.
Yeah, and I think, in selected renovations or selected improvements can make sense. Maybe some inexpensive lighting fixtures that have a particular look combined with paint and floor coverings, and maybe some plumbing fixtures, some simple things like that, rather than redoing an entire kitchen or redoing baths, can make a big difference. And one of the things that we talk about oftentimes is, right, 90% of what you see is walls, floors, and ceilings. If that is all in pretty good shape, it's going to look fairly fresh, even if some things are outdated.
Yes, and we cannot overemphasize a clean house. When you walk into a house, if it smells clean, if it looks clean, no dust bunnies behind, in the corners, you can actually walk in and tell that the house has been lovingly maintained. It might not be updated to the latest trends, but a clean house speaks volumes to buyers.
Absolutely, and I think we've both been very fortunate. We have some good cleaners we can recommend to do that deep cleaning if you want.
Yes.
And people do have to, brace themselves. It could be $1,000 to get the house really clean, super deep cleaning, because we're talking about scrubbing doors, the trim, making it look like maybe it's close to being freshly painted on the trim if it's, if the paint isn't chipping off. And so I've seen dramatic improvements by a deep cleaning, and it definitely can pay for itself.
Yes, and when it comes to big projects like remodeling kitchens or remodeling bathrooms, if you think that the buyer is going to go ahead and do it anyways, don't go ahead and make unique improvements that only are specific to your family.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people can look at the NAR guidelines of return on investments on particular home improvement projects, and it will always show that maybe kitchens and bathrooms are the ones that return the most, but it's never over 100%, right? You're going to get 70 cents on the dollar back if you're lucky.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think it makes sense to do that necessarily.
Yes, and I think I may add that you and me are active real estate agents, and we list houses and we help buyers buy and move into this area. So if you're ever thinking about remodeling or you're not sure of what you should do, what not to do, just go ahead and give either of us a call and we'll be happy to come through.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We'd be happy to do that for sure.
Another question sellers ask us is about pre-listing inspections. Does it make sense to invest the money to get an inspector come in to go through the house and look at faults?
Yeah, and I think that maybe can be a case-by-case basis. Again, just use some good judgment here. I would probably err and say, yes, it makes a lot of sense most of the time. But if someone has just recently replaced their roof, or they've just recently replaced a lot of their systems, or they're one of those homeowners that are just on top of everything, you might not have to worry quite so much. But if somebody hasn't been taking care of the house, it can make a good idea to do that. Right?
Yeah, and there are some inspection companies like Conley Home Inspection that go ahead and offer a 10-point home inspection. So they won't do a comprehensive inspection, so it won't cost you like $700, $800, again, depending on the size of your house. I think he charges about $175, right under $200, and does the main components like the HVAC, the water heater, the roof, and gives you kind of an idea of whether you may get that pulled up in the inspection report when the buyer does go ahead and does a more comprehensive inspection. So you could think about that. But also, if you think that when the inspector comes, he's gonna bring a laundry list of items because of deferred maintenance, then you may want to tread cautiously, because if you find something that has an issue, you need to disclose it in the seller's property disclosure.
I think one of the things that the seller can do as well is just talking to a very experienced realtor like ourselves. We've been through hundreds of home inspections each. So when we go through a home, I know we're already looking and finding a lot of these things. Of course, we're not bringing in testing equipment to find some of the things a home inspector is, but we will point out things and ask pertinent questions on what we see, and we can spot, I think, a lot of times some of these stumbling blocks ahead of time as well. And so I think it's another good reminder for folks when you have a choice of thousands of agents up in this area, pick some agents that are actually experienced, not the guy who just got his license 6 months ago and doesn't really add any value during this process.
And I think this ties into the previous topic about repairs, Jeff, because when you walk in through a house and you see that the siding is warped or there's a leaky faucet, you could give them guidelines as to, hey, it may not be a bad idea to repair this or replace that, kind of. So the pre-listing inspection might not necessarily be professional with a realtor, but at least we have a good eye as to what may be pulled up during the inspection.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now jumping onto a new topic, which is a newish trend these days, is about staging. A lot of houses these days have been staged either virtually or in reality. Like, you walk in, you're like, well, the house does not look anything like the pictures because it was virtually staged. It was not staged with furniture being brought into the house. So a lot of sellers are like, well, we want our house staged. What are your thoughts about it?
Well, first impressions are super important. If you just imagine, let's just say, for instance, you went to a doctor and it was an important visit, and you go in there and the guy's wearing his baseball cap backwards and a tank top, that first impression is not going to inspire a lot of confidence. And so first impressions definitely make a difference, and the house is no different. And so if the first impression a buyer sees of a house is that it is cluttered, a mess, disorganized, things are old, run down, it leaves a bad impression, and the people get turned off very quickly. And then you're going to get bottom fishing, kind of offers.
Yes, and I feel like a house could be staged or not staged based on the house itself. If it's a smallish house, there's a possibility you might not need to stage it because then it would clutter the house. So open spaces are a little more attractive to buyers than having a cluttered staged house. And, having a stager come in who can use your stuff and just fluff up your stuff is, I feel, equally effective.
I think that's very valuable to just make sure the furniture's placed the right way. Just changing the way you've lived in the house sometimes can make a big difference in the way the home feels when a buyer comes. And so sometimes virtual staging makes sense if the home is vacant, no doubt, to get people in the door because it helps draw them in. But the other thing to keep in mind, and it went to, I guess, our last question, or at least in the last section where we talked about painting and such, if that's important. If you imagine your house is vacant, the only thing people can see is the house itself. There's nothing to distract the eye. And then a new fresh paint job makes a big difference. If your house is staged nicely, and even if the paint isn't perfect, all these other items that are in the house will help distract the eye, and it's not so critical upon the condition of the home. So again, I think it really goes on a case-by-case basis. A good realtor should be able to help provide some good advice as to what could be done and what can be done cost effectively so you have a return on your investment and we're not just throwing money away.
And our main goal is helping buyers imagine themselves living there, whether it's by virtual staging or you're staging it in person, for sure. And another thing that helps tremendously, Jeff, I feel, is something that you always encourage sellers to do, is start packing early.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I think I figured that out in the first year in business, right? You just figured it out on your own is you're going to be moving anyway. Obviously, you got your home on the market. You're going to be successful if you really want to be. So you're going to be moving anyway. Just pack these things up now rather than waiting for the moving truck to be idling out in your driveway, right? You start early, pack it up. Now your house is less decluttered. It's more attractive. And in a way, you're getting paid now to do your own packing because it will help bring a better price.
Yeah, and it makes your eventual move less stressful.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And so it always never ceases to amaze me when people, argue that and they're like, no, I don't want to start packing now. Okay. Well, probably not, maybe not a motivated seller, I suppose.
And buyers always open closets and pull out drawers. So make sure that your drawers and closets are completely organized and clean and decluttered.
Yeah. I hope all these tips now are going to give people a little better idea of what they need to do before they get their home on the market. So we've kind of covered the timing, and then we've covered the visual updates and the first impression portion, and should you have the home inspected or not, the staging and the decluttering. So
if you like our pre-listing presentation checklist or want us to do a walkthrough of your home to prioritize what to fix first, just reach out to either Jeff or me and we'll be happy to come through.
Yeah, that'd be great. And just for people to keep in mind, maybe even if your move is 6 months away, it's not too early to call us because that gives you some time to comfortably get these projects done rather than rushing around in the last 2 or 3 weeks, right?
And this was the North Atlanta Real Estate Podcast with your amazing hosts, Meesha Rawal
and Jeff Aughey.
Stay smart, stay informed, and tune into our next episode. Till then,
bye for now.
Bye.